Good afternoon, class. So, for geography, let us continue with development of agriculture or how agriculture has been developed over the years. Industrial development gave a major boost to agricultural development. With the growth of world population, the demand for food has grown continuously. However, over the past 30 years, the total amount of food in the world has increased at a faster rate than the average rate of population growth. So, with industrialization, agriculture is also growing at a faster rate. How industrialization is boosting agricultural development. So, with the advancement of transport and communication, machineries, expanding markets, and market farms, this has helped in boosting the agricultural development. So, with the growth of world population, the demand for food is also increasing continuously. However, over the past 30 years, the total amount of food production in the world is increasing at a faster rate than the average rate of population growth. Continuous efforts are being made since early 1960s to increase crop production by replacing manures with chemical fertilizers, introduction of hybrid yield variety of seeds, increased use of pesticides, insecticides, fungicides, and rodenticides. So efforts have been made since the early 1960s to increase production. So what are the efforts that are being made? By replacing manures with chemical fertilizers, introduction of the HYV seeds or the good quality seeds which are developed by the scientists in a science lab to improve food supplies and food production. Now, there's also an increased use of pesticides, insecticides, fungicides, and rodenticides. So, these are chemical fertilizers which can help to kill these pests or insects or fungi or rodents which are responsible for destroying the food crops. Now, marginal lands are being plowed and irrigation is being increasingly extended to the arid areas, changing the age-old ecosystem. So, what are marginal lands? Marginal land, they are a piece of land which have very little or no agricultural value. Why? It can be due to a poor soil or the soil is very less fertile. That's why the product or the crops which are produced from that piece of land is very less. So these marginal lands are being plowed and also irrigation facilities is being introduced in order changing the age-old ecosystem by introducing modern machines, science, and technology. Now, farms have been modernized in many countries. Nowadays, the farmers use computers and weather satellite information system in agriculture. Now, why farmers use these computers and weather satellite information system? In order to monitor or to watch out the weather and the climatic conditions of the particular place so as to avoid any risks which can occur, for example, such as drought or flood or a famine. So these weather satellites, they can help in providing information system about the weather condition or the climatic condition. Tractors, threshers, and combine harvesters have made work easy and fast. Now the farmers nowadays they use tractors, threshers, and combine harvesters. So threshers, they are machines which can help to separate the grain or the wheat from the corn and the husk. And combine harvesters, they are modern machines which are used for the harvesting of crops. So these have made the work of the farmer easier and faster. Now, storage and marketing facilities are also being revamped or modernized or renovated or renewed. So, as a result of these efforts, agricultural production is increasing worldwide. Today, there is much more food per person than there was in the 1970s, even though the total number of people has doubled. So, the food production today is increasing with the help of these modern machines, science, and technologies. And so, when we compare the food production to the 1970s, it is increasingly double. So, some countries have developed genetically modified crops to get higher yields. These crops are resistant to pests and weeds. So, developed countries, for example, like the USA, they usually use these genetically modified crops. So these crops are modified genetically by an engineering method in a lab, and these crops, they are resistant to pests and weeds. So some of the example of the food crop, these type of food crops are potato, sorghum, maize, and so on and so forth. Green Revolution in the later half of the 1960s in India introduced many high-yielding varieties of seeds, facilitated the use of fertilizers, and made it easier to take loans to invest in tube wells, pumps, and tractors. All these efforts led to an increase in productivity and made India self-sufficient in food grains. So, Green Revolution. Now, what is Green Revolution? It is an agricultural revolution which is responsible for bringing in efforts to increase the production of food grains. So in the 1960s, India has introduced many high-yielding variety of seeds or the good quality seeds, along with the use of fertilizers to improve food production. It has also made easier for the farmers to borrow money or loan to invest in tube wells, pumps for irrigational purposes, and tractors. So all these efforts have led to an increase in productivity of food crops and have made India self-sufficient in food grains. So now let us have a look at this table, the agricultural practices in a developed and a developing country. So this table shows a comparison between a developed and a developing country. It shows the agricultural practices in a developed and a developing country. So let us look at the first one. So here, developed country, they are giving USA, and developing country, India. The size of the land holding is large, about 250 hectares. So the land holding is very large. That is about 250 hectares. Whereas in India, the size of the land holding is small. 1/3 of the land holding are less than half a hectare, and on an average, they are 1.5 hectares. So when we compare India to USA, USA is having a large size of land holding, whereas India is having only 1.5 hectares. So this is because of fragmentation of land due to inheritance law. In India, most of the land are owned by the people, or most of the land it belongs to private property. So there is a division of land. So that is why the land holding is small. Now the second one, extensive agriculture is practiced and single cropping is carried out on a large scale. So extensive agriculture is a type of agriculture in which a crop cultivation is being used by introducing small amount of capital and labor. Whereas in India, intensive or subsistent agriculture is followed to get maximum output from a small plot of land. So what is intensive of agriculture? It is a type of agriculture which involves high amount of labor and capital, whereas the production is very small. So efforts are made to consolidate land holdings through chakbandi and cooperative farming. So what is chakbandi? It is that method of cultivation in which a land is restricted from partition, or small pieces of land are included together by cultivation by the farmers. And cooperative farming. So cooperative farming is a type of farming in which the farmers, they bring in all the resources together and share the benefits accordingly. So in USA, extensive agriculture is practiced and single cropping is carried out on a large scale, whereas in India, intensive or subsistent agriculture is being practiced on a small plot of land. Now the third one, farms are mechanized with tractors and combine harvesters. Most of the work is carried out by machines. So in USA, or in developed countries, the farmers they use tractors and combine harvesters, and most of the farming work is done or carried out by the machines. So the total arable land is 174.45 million hectares with 4.76 million tractors or combines, and there are only 2.67 million of farm workers. So the most of the work is done by the machines. Whereas in India, farmers are too poor to make use of machines. Mostly they may get together and hire tractors. So in India, the farmers they will pull in their resources, they will bring in their resources together and hire tractors. Manual labor is utilized for most of the operation. So most of the work is carried out by the farmers themselves. Now the total arable land is 159.65 million hectares, for which there are 2.53 million tractors. There are 261.63 million farm workers. So when we compare the farm workers of India with USA, there are more farm workers in India than the USA. Why? Because in USA, most of the work is carried out by the machines, whereas in India, most of the work have to be done by the farmers themselves. Dry or irrigated farming is practiced in the USA. So dry or irrigated farming, dry farming here, it is a type of farming in which involve the growing of crops which require very less amount of water or rainfall. And irrigated farming is that type of farming which involve the assured water supply from artificial source or irrigation. So in irrigated farming, the farmers they make use of this artificial source of irrigation like tube wells or canals to supply water to the fields. Agriculture is heavily dependent on the monsoons. Floods or droughts are a regular feature in these regions, whereas in India, agriculture is heavily dependent on the monsoon or the rainfall. So floods and droughts are a regular feature in these regions. So sometimes when there is a heavy rain, there is floods and the crops are destroyed, and sometimes there are no rain, so there is drought, and this also can destroy the crops. So they have no artificial water resources. Even if they have, it is very less. Now HIV seeds, insecticides, pesticides are used extensively. Farmers are aware of the latest know-how. Only 3% population depends on agriculture in the USA but can cultivate extensively with machines. Agriculture is run like a business. So in developed countries, agriculture is like a business. They use HIV seeds or the good quality seeds, chemical fertilizers to kill the insects or the pests which can damage the plants. And farmers, they are very much aware of the know-how. The know-how here, it refers to the practical knowledge or the skills which is related to the production and the growing of crops. And only 3% of the population is dependent on agriculture. In India, limited use is made of improved seeds, chemical fertilizers, and pesticides. Farmers lack awareness, are poor, and till the soil themselves or with the help of their animals and family members. Whereas in India, there is very limited use of these HIV seeds and chemical fertilizers or pesticides. And the farmers, they lack the knowledge or the skills, and most of the farmers, they have to till or to plow the soil by themselves or with the help of their animals or the family members. Number 6. As land holding are very large, mixed farming is practiced. Livestock are reared and their produce supplements the farming income. Now in USA, as the size of the land is very large, mixed farming is practiced. So mixed farming is a type of farming which involves both the growing of crops and the rearing of animals. The livestock are reared and also the produce supplements the farming income. So the products of the livestock also supplements the farming income. In India, land is generally used only for crop cultivation and the land holding is very small. So the plot of land for cultivation is very small and farmers can barely afford to keep animals for plowing, transportation of the produce and subsistence. So farmers they cannot afford to keep animals for plowing the fields, for transportation of the products and to support their work. Now farmers are educated, aware and have expertise in farming. They test soil samples, soil ability and water availability. They study the market trends to determine the kind of crops they want to grow. In case of a storm, they can harvest thousands of acres within 5 to 6 hours. Farmers try to cut costs and reduce expenses for better income. Now in USA, farmers they are educated and aware and they have experience in farming. Before they grow or plant any crops, they test the soil samples and the kind of crops which will thrive or grow well in that particular soil and also the water availability. They study the market trends. They study these market trends as to what kind of crops is on high demand in the market. So in case of a storm, they can harvest thousands of acres within 5 to 6 hours. So even if there is any disaster or storm, they can harvest the food crops within 5 to 6 hours, even in 1,000 acres of land with the help of these modern machines. They try to cut the costs and reduce expenses for better income. In India, most of the farmers are not well educated and are at the mercy of the money lender. They are being educated through a district or block level advisor. Tenancy farming is practiced. As a result, the inputs are limited. In India, most of the farmers they are not educated and they are at the mercy of the money lender. Most of them they have to borrow money in order to buy good variety of seeds, fertilizers and other agricultural products. Now they are being educated through a district or block level advisor. Some of them are getting a training or awareness program through a district or block level advisor. Tenancy farming is practiced. Now what is tenancy farming? Tenancy farming is when a farmer rented a piece of land for farming. Now, as a result, the inputs are limited. Number 8, excellent storage facilities are available at farms and grains are stored in silos. There is automated grain storage facility and well tied up systems for dispatch of produce to market agencies. So in developing countries, the storage facilities for grains are also very modernized. So these grains are stored in silos. So what are these silos? These silos, they are tall tower or pit on a farm that is used to store grain. So these tower, they are free from water ingress, insects, rodents and birds. Storage facilities are lacking. A lot of the produce is lost because of rats or fungal attacks in the rainy seasons. All farmers do not use the available storage facilities provided by the government. In India, the storage facilities are lacking. So a lot of these agricultural products are destroyed by rats, fungus or rain, especially during the raining season. Now all farmers they do not use the available storage or proper storage which is provided by the government. Number 9, yield of crops are generally very high. Cereal yields is 6,624.4 kgs per hectare. So with the use of modern machines, technologies, chemical fertilizers, the production of crop is very high. Here cereals yield is 6,624.4 kgs per hectare, whereas in India, the yield of crops are very low. That is only 2,647.2 kg per hectare. Number 10, growth in agricultural production has stabilized over the years. Awareness and literacy in farmers is rising. They are adopting scientific and modern techniques. Government policies and financial support is more forthcoming. There is considerable growth and improvement in the agricultural sector. So, in developing countries, awareness and literacy of in farmers about agriculture is rising. So, in India, the farmers they have started adopting the scientific and modern techniques to improve the agricultural production, and the government is also providing financial support in order to increase the production. Now, in USA, the growth in agricultural production has stabilized over the years, whereas in the developed countries, the agricultural production is steadfast and firm. It is stable. It is stabilized over the years. It has become stable. Now, in India, there is considerable growth and improvement in the agricultural sector. However, in India, farmers they are still on the improvement process on how to improve the production of crops along with the help of the government. So there is a considerable growth and improvement in the agricultural sector. So now we have completed with this chapter 3, that is agriculture and major crops. So I hope you have understood what I have explained in the previous topics also. So if you are having any doubts, do let me know. Thank you.